Peace, everybody. It's Mutahana here. How y'all doing today? Y'all, I have some really exciting news-ish. So let me tell you, first of all, do me a favor and hit like and subscribe and share if you find any relevant information in this video. But y'all, so I have been studying ancestry and genealogy for a long time, for a lot of years, and for probably the past decade I have been searching y'all for my second great grandparents to no avail. Couldn't find them no daggone place. And really the only, I have their names because of two documents from my great grandparent, my second great grandparents, whom I'm speaking of, are my maternal grandfather's grandparents from his father's side. And so, you know, my grandfather, first of all, like a lot of you, there were just a lot of questions that I didn't even know to ask my grandfather before, you know, he transitioned or passed away or whatever, died. There were just questions I didn't know to ask him. I did ask him some questions that he couldn't answer. And you know, he told me it was because when he was a child, children were to be seen and not heard, right? And so he said that his parents, they just didn't talk about stuff. And we have that. That is a tradition in so many cultures. And you know, he just told me little tidbits here and there that I remember. Like, he told me, I know that he grew up in East Orange, New Jersey. You know, he told me, like, people who are familiar with that area, Main Street right there, a lot of you may know there used to be water that was part of the Morris Canal that went all the way down to Raymond Boulevard and all that. You know, they dredged it, or you know, and it's a street. But when he was young, he lived on Amherst Street, and that waterway was still there. So I know that, and I know that his father, who was a very dark-skinned gentleman, my great-grandfather, Reverend Gus, I believe he was a reverend in the AME church. Just from me, you know, having like the newspaper obituary and stuff, the church that where he was buried, or who conducted the funeral, is not there anymore, but it used to be on Market Street in Newark. And so I think that may have been an AME church, I'm not sure. But he told me that his dad had brothers. I think there were two brothers, and he said they were big, burly, dark men. And, you know, I just happened to see a picture of my great-grandfather once, and like I said, he was a very dark-skinned man. It was a black and white photo, but you can still tell that somebody is very dark tone. And so, you know, I didn't really know a whole lot about my great-grandfather, and I knew nothing about his parents whatsoever until through my, you know, familiar research of my ancestors, I came across my great-grandfather, Reverend Gus. I'm gonna call him Reverend Gus because my grandfather has his name too, and my uncle. So Reverend Gus, he I came across his and my great-grandmother Elna's marriage certificate. But child, they lied on that thing. So my grandmother didn't even use her actual name. She used his name. I'm like, where did she get this name from? I don't know. She just liked it. I don't know. So I found that marriage certificate, and so I know it's them, even though my great-grandma, who raised me actually, even though my great-grandma used an alias, I knew her parents' names, so that linked up. And then that's how I found out who his parents were. And so I just couldn't find any information on them at all, except for, again, the marriage certificate and then his death certificate, in which my great-grandma Elna gave that information. Also, on the marriage certificate, so my great-grandma had been married twice. The first time she got married, she lied on that too, saying that she was 18 when she was really 16. And then when she married my great-grandfather, again, he lied about where his parents were from. And then, like, the ages were, like, kooky, I believe on the marriage certificate. They played around with the, no, they absolutely did. Because when I saw the death certificate, I'm like, okay, that number is way different, y'all. Like, come on. And so I don't know if it's because, you know, he just didn't know. Because a lot of times back then, African American people, and I think it's, I don't know this for sure, but I think it's probably pretty safe to say indigenous Americans too, or indigenous people too. They just didn't keep accurate accounts. Like, who cared, right? They didn't keep accurate accounts. And then on top of that, per my great-grandparents, they weren't really beef for the government like that. And not just them, like white folks too. Like, nobody seemed to really take any of that stuff seriously. It was just like it just was not accurate. And apparently they didn't have to have any identification to prove these things. And then even like on things like censuses and such, a lot of it had to do with the census taker. So like for race, for instance, whatever you look like is what they put down there, you know? Or, you know, if they, you know, they wrote your name, your surname, or even your first name, however they thought you spelled it. Because, you know, again, a lot of people were illiterate to a large degree back then. People across the board, like racially and ethnically. So, you know, the people who were being recorded maybe didn't know how to spell their name properly, or again, you know, there are different variances in names. So if the census taker had, you know, let's say a German heritage, they may spell the name differently than may have been more common as American speakers at that time. So they're like all sorts of, you know, reasoning and, you know, reasons why things, there may be differences and such like that. Also, I said on another video, my Uncle Bob, who was really my third cousin, but he was an elder. And so my Uncle Bob, he had a surname that now his children and his grandchildren have this name, but it is not even connected to our ancestry. And that's because the person who took the information down, apparently, for the birth certificate or have you, misheard. I don't know if, I imagine it was a white woman, I don't know that, but whomever it was, I don't know if they had a problem understanding the Bahamian tongue. I don't know what the situation was, but somehow the person got Chisoni from Chisholm. And so we have a whole line in my family who are the Chisonis. And there ain't no ancestor named Chisoni. Well, now it is, because Uncle Bob has passed away. But so, you know, crazy, crazy, crazy. So I found out my second great parents' names long ago, and have been trying to find them. On top of that, the death certificate, I don't believe the death certificate has his mom's name, Reverend Gus's mom's name, but it is on the marriage certificate, but it is her nickname. That's something else you saw a lot. You see a lot on official documentation from back in the day. They don't even use a person's actual birth name. They'll use a whole daggone nickname, y'all. And so, you know, it was trying. But lo and behold, I happen to, here's the thing with me, and probably a lot of you too. If I hit a brick wall like over and over and over again, because I'm hard head, and I gotta step away from it. I have to start researching somebody else's line, because I like to do that too. Look up friends of mine's, family, and stuff like that. But I have to step away from it for a while, sometimes a long while. And then when I come back to it, you know, bam, right in my face, I'm like, where was this before? And you know, I've come back to my second great grandparents many times before, but could not find anything. And then, you know, I looked up like, okay, this nickname, what actual name does this nickname come from? And I've even looked up that name, you know, before, the actual name being Francis. I figured it was Francis or Francine or something like that, to no avail. All of a sudden, this morning, in the middle of the night, I decide, let me get on Family Searches, just look again. And sure enough, here you come. So now, the reason I said it may be news-ish is because I'm not completely 1,000% convinced, but I'm about 999% sure this is them. And reason being, because my, you know, second great grandma name that fits. Now, it's not with her maiden name though, it's with her married name, which is Williams. And then her husband, my second great granddad, his name. And then this document is actually the birth of a son, which fits very, very well with the year my great-grandfather was probably born. And this is going by the information on the death certificate, which was given by my great-grandma, his wife. And so I think I got it. I think I got him, y'all. Now you know, couldn't have had too many gifts in one day. So I kept looking and looking and looking for more, to no avail. But so I knew they were from Virginia because, again, on the marriage certificate, it got a whole other state. I don't know why they were just lying. I'm like, well, y'all want to run or something? But he had a whole different state for whatever reason that his parents were from. But as a child, I remember hearing that my great-grandma, Elna, was from Virginia, but that's not true. She's actually born and raised in Pennsylvania, right on the borderline of New York, up in, oh God, what county is that? It's on the tip of my brain. But anyway, she's from up there. My great-grandma, she is Afro-Indigenous. Her maternal line is Mohawk. Her grandma came down from Canada, from the res, and settled there in that area. And it's very much so, it's very much, I'm going to go into a whole other video about this eventually, because actually the last project that my son Two Clouds did, it was with us together, and it was on this area because there's a museum up there, and it has a whole bunch of indigenous, you know, history or information and stuff in it. But the curator she seemed like she had kind of an attitude with me, I don't know, but insisted that there were no Mohawks in the area, Tioga County. When, honey, Tioga is a Mohawk word. The street signs are named after the Six Nations. It's like crazy. It's like, ma'am, are you serious right now? Not to mention the fact that there's a whole history of Mohawk entertainers coming through there. But anyway, and that's just the base, the surface. So Two Clouds and I did a whole project together. on that. So I think I might do a video on that one day, or I don't know, release the project that we did. I already have his audio on our Beyond Clouds YouTube page, which might be here, might be, I don't know where I'm gonna upload this video to. But anyhow, where did I okay, I got it. So yeah, so as a child, I remember hearing that my great grandma Eleanor was from Virginia, but she actually was not. She was from Pennsylvania. I've been up there. I've been to the church where she was baptized in. I've been to the cemetery for our ancestors. I know for sure she was born and raised there. I have documentation and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, maybe he's from Virginia. And you know, sure enough, well, that's what it turned out to be, that he's actually from Virginia. And I know this because my grandma Eleanor said so on his death certificate. Now, one of the other great things that happened today, which is again leading me to believe that this family, this is my family, is from Virginia. And it actually gave the town from which these people were from. And so that's great. That's going to lead me down a whole, I'm so excited. I love ancestry research and, you know, genealogy research and DNA, and I just love it. And you know, I'm not one of those people that see something that's like, oh, that's them. That don't mean it's your people, and you have to cross-reference. There's things you have to use: oral history, documentation, you know, regions. Like, what do you remember hearing, or does this make sense, or you know, all those sorts of things. And so, this is taking me down a whole different avenue. And so me looking into that, and then of course this, where they were from, no longer exists. It was incorporated into Norfolk, Virginia. And so that caused me to, the internet has so much great information. That took me to another long, chock full of information and documentation that's also on Family Search about Virginia historically, and for African Americans particularly. So what I learned, and now this don't mean it's my family, but what I've learned is that back during that time, well, I knew this part already. I already knew that Virginia during that time, the late 19th century or the late 1800s, that there were a whole lot of, well, I'm sorry, not the late 1800s because emancipation already come, but during the, you know, 19th century, I think the 18th century even, that there were a lot of course, enslaved people there, but there were a whole lot of freedmen. And so there's this big list. To me, it's like a huge list that is on Family Search that tells you surnames of African Americans who were actually free people of color in Virginia. And Williams is one of those surnames. So I thought that was really interesting and like really cool. I'm like, I wonder. So that was dope. And then it's just kind of just so much information, y'all, and I just love it. I love it to pieces. But you know, I wanted to sort of make this video to tell y'all that news, but also again to reiterate what I already kind of said before I wanted to say it, is that you know, you have to take, if what we want to do truly is find the truth, then there are many avenues to do so that we need to use as a collective, you know, of resources And you know, I'm no disrespect to anyone, but I am not one of those people who are just like, you know, what my grandma said or whatever. Oral tradition is not enough. It can certainly help you, but a lot of the times, again, I don't mean disrespect to anyone, but a lot of times our grandmamas ain't always know what they were talking about. They didn't know what they were talking about. They got, you know, second or third hand information, or they, you know, came to certain deductions because of this or because of that, like all sorts of things. And so it's really great to have those oral traditions, but you know, to use, like, it's just another tool to help you in finding your people. So that's what I'm still doing. I'm still digging to see if these are really my people, because I'm not one of those people. I want to know my people. I ain't concerned with all that other stuff. Yeah, that sounds cute, but if they're not mine, then, you know, whoever they belong to, have them. But my people I want to find, and I really want to know the story, because, you know, our ancestors are who we are. And having this information will make it so much better, you know, of a human experience for our descendants, you know, the good, bad, and the ugly. Because I know we like to pretend that our ancestors are some sort of, you know, superheroes or, you know, perfect human beings or whatever. But I mean, some of us got woman beaters in our lines, some of us got, you know, whatever, alcoholics, whatever the case is. And you know, it just is what it is. We're all having this human experience, and that's what it is. But yeah, I'm like really stoked that I have some more information to go on. Lord knows I do not have all the time I'm gonna need to delve deep into this, but I'm gonna have to find the time. Oh, and the other thing is, I'm very big also on archiving information. So not just for the family. So, you know, we have historical societies and such, and you know, I am working on putting together a packet of my familial information to offer to some of these historical societies and such, depending on, you know, where it is. Like, I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I'm 5th generation Northite, Brook City. And you know, we started out there through my German line. So that is great information. And again, I want my people to count. I want my people's stories. That is my gift to my ancestors, to make sure that they are remembered, and to make sure that at least if they're, you know, descendants or those who come after me, or even, you know, my generation now, if they want to go and find out who are their people, then the information is there for the taking. But, you know, they deserve to, they deserve to be part of the story, in my opinion. And, you know, from, you know, a Newark perspective, my German ancestors, they helped to build Newark. You know, they helped to build Newark. My great-granddad, Reverend Gus, and my great-grandma Elna, they helped to build Newark. You know, my mother helped to, you know, build Temple 25, Nation of Islam in Newark, and helped with the ushering in and you know, women, you know, it's just a given these days. We get to wear our hair covered without any issues and all that kind of stuff. But all those things that we take for granted, we just have these privileges these days. It came at a price, and it came with people pushing forward and saying, nah, this is what we're doing. And so, you know, my mother is part of that generation of covering their hair and everything. I'm part of the generation of helping to usher in being able to wear niqab, because I was the only one in that whole region doing so. And now, you know, again, it's a given. If people want to cover their face, they can do so. So, you know, all those things come at a price, and we all deserve to be part of the story. So yeah, I'm stoked.